Does your aging parent have a will? Great. Do you know where it's located? Is it up to date? Does it reflect their life as it is today? What happens if a medical emergency happened tomorrow and they could not speak for themselves? Who is going to speak on their behalf? If you're just realizing that there are more gaps than you thought, this video is for you. Today, we're talking about wills and estate planning. We're going to talk about what your parents need, what most families are missing, and talk about having that conversation um, to where it doesn't sound like you're planning a funeral. Welcome back to Sandwich Generation Life. This is part two of the Money Talk series. If you missed part one, we covered day-to-day financings. I'll link that I'll link that video in the description of this video. And you start there if you haven't started the whole conversation at all. Today we're going to go a little deeper into territory that most families avoid altogether, and that's wills and estate planning. I never had to have the conversation of wills with my parent. My parent, again, has been very upfront with us, and they told us that they had a will. They told us where it was located. So that was a big relief. But I quickly realized that a will alone was not enough, and we really should have been putting a lot of other things in place along with the will. So that's exactly what I'm going to talk to you about today. Okay, so why this conversation feels so hard? I think there's three reasons. First, the first reason is it feels like you're talking about death. And nobody wants to sit across from their parents and have this conversation where it feels like you're counting down a clock. I get it. But this conversation isn't about death, it's about love. It's about making sure your parents' wishes are honored exactly the way they want, that they're not left, that we are not left guessing about what decision they might have made or might have wanted, and because you really shouldn't be making um, decisions when you're going through so much grief. So it's really easy on everyone when this conversation does happen. Um, so, secondly, sometimes a parent thinks it's too soon to have this conversation, even if they're in their 70s and 80s. There's often resistance. Like maybe they think I'm not there yet. So why are you why are you talking to me about this? The truth is that there is no perfect time to have this conversation. The best time is to have it before anything happens, of course. And then thirdly, a lot of people think that they don't need to talk, especially about the estate planning part, because they don't think they have enough assets to bother with any of this. I hear this all the time. I don't have much, so what is there to plan? But estate planning isn't just about money, it's about decisions, medical decisions, end of life decisions. Who speaks for them when they can't speak for themselves? Um, that matters regardless of how much money is in the bank. So if we're talking about what's needed. So we talked earlier about the fact that my parent had already told us, you got a will, here, this is where it's located. This is where it's located. And I'm like, great, that conversation's over. We're all set. We know where everything is located. Good. But as the years went by, um, and other health issues came up, I quickly understood that there were other documents definitely that was needed when we talked about the will years back. There were other documents that needed to be in place at that time, and ended up learning the hard way. So let me talk to you about the four documents that's needed. So of course, the will. We already talked about that. That's needed. This, of course, the assets, um, where the assets go after they pass away. If your parent already has one, that's great. But when was the last time it was updated? A will written 15 years ago may not reflect what is actual in today's time. their life today. Relationships change. Maybe they want to write someone out the will. Assets change, and people names may have changed. So you may want to have them just revisit the will if they already have one in place. The next document, a durable power of attorney. Okay, so this document is really almost like one of the most important ones because this document is a document that needs to be in place while they're living. So this document is normally um, having like someone designated, usually an adult child, over their finances. Um, when the parents are unable to do things themselves, this is kind of when the person designated as the under the power of attorney, kicks it into gear. Without this, even a spouse would have a hard time kind of accessing things with the other spouse's name on it. Um, I found out when I talked in our last discussion, part one, about the day-to-day finances when I took over my parents' day-to-day finances. That was one of the things I ran across. If I had a question about the electric bill that wasn't on the website, or even if I had an issue with their website, if I called in and I was not my mom or my parent, um, you know, they would not speak to me. They would say, yeah, is that person around to give us authorization to discuss this matter with you? And I'm like, well, no, because that's the point of having a power of attorney. So I found out the hard way that you really do need it. And it's not that you need it, but any company that you are going to talk to on the behalf of your parent will need a copy of the power of attorney on file. Or they would need the parent to have, when they were able to, state you as a designated person to talk to, they would have needed to have your name already on file. So one or the other. But the power of attorney usually came into play a lot. So I usually had to email it or fax it along to that company. The third document is the health directive, also called a living will or an advance directive. This outlines your parents' wishes for medical care if they can't communicate. Things like resuscitation preferences, life support, end of life care. Having this document means their doctors and family know exactly what to do. Without it, those decisions fall on whoever's around, whoever's present, and family members don't always agree. Yeah, so um, this an example of this when this is needed is in the life care in particular. Like if you have a parent that does not want to be kept alive on life support, this health directive would be um, there's a do not resuscitate, a DNR, that is usually put on file by you know the parent to like the doctor's office, and it's usually put on like the refrigerator. That's the health directive, and so that's when you need it, so that they can tell you what their wishes are when it comes to situations like that. That's usually when it comes into play. The fourth document is a health power of attorney. So I also found out that that was different than the durable power of attorney as well. A health power of attorney is the same as a dual, but it's for health. It's for someone to make decisions on your behalf for medical reasons. Um, and it works hand in hand with the health directive as well. So um, And sometimes the durable power of attorney will have an option on the form where it will, um, you know, say, this includes health care, and you can check the checkbox on some durable power of attorney documents. And so it can be one in the same document, but I think the healthcare power of attorney is, I guess, for more specific things than more than one line option on the form. So just check with an attorney, or LegalZoom, or you can Google it. Sometimes there are examples out there of all these documents out. You have to Google it, and you Google it per state because there are different um, laws around these documents in each state. So just make sure you cover yourself. And um, yeah, so we'll talk about some more about these documents a little bit later. How to start the conversation. So it's kind of hard to start this conversation because it's always going to feel morbid and, maybe offensive in a way because, somebody may look at you and say, I'm not that old. I'm not, sick. Why are you, bringing this conversation up now? But so it's kind of, you don't want to just say, I need to talk to you about your will. You kind of need to ease into the conversation, maybe give them a scenario. A lot of times, especially the longer you live, you'll always have scenarios where you know of a friend or a coworker or a family member that had a medical emergency or something happened in their family. Someone was incapacitated, or maybe someone died, that was an untimely death, and so there was a will in place and things like that, and how it created a lot of conflict around for family members, heartache, around this devastating time. Like maybe they didn't have know what the wishes were of this person. So you can bring up any kind of scenario that kind of fits this, um, the beginning of this discussion. And then you want to kind of go into, I never want this, um, I never want us to be in this position. I want to make sure everything is, I want to make sure if anything ever happened, I would know exactly what to do and would be able to honor, it exactly how you want it to be honored. So, can we just make sure everything is in place so that we have peace of mind, um, things like that. So, um, again, peace of mind is good to have in that conversation, framing it as something that you need rather than something that's being done to you. And peace of mind is always something that most people, I think everybody wants. So you may learn that your parents probably have been secretly, quietly thinking about having this discussion themselves, but didn't really know how to bring it up. So that might be something that is kind of good to happen, for everyone involved. This whole conversation. So once the conversation has happened, then you start. The next steps are usually like um, locating the existing will. You need to know, now that you know that there's a will, where is it? Make sure you know where it is and everyone knows where it is. Um, the worst thing about knowing that there's a will is that you can't find the will. It's almost as bad as not having a will at all. Um, and I think people know some kind of scenario, some person that, a friend of a friend, where they knew there was a will, but nobody could find it. So, you don't know who has the assets, and then it goes to probate court, which nobody wants to go to. No one wants to go through the city or the state deciding on assets, and you and your siblings or whoever else is fighting over assets of your loved one. No one wants to go through that. So, yeah. So having that will is very important. Knowing where it's located is very important. Next thing is review it together if your parents are comfortable with that. Um, Look at who is named as the executor. Look at whether it reflects current wishes. If it's outdated, and many are, encourage them to revisit it with an attorney. Um, And you can decide if you want to use an attorney. Um, I think personally that it's good to at least have an attorney to kind of, guide you a little bit. But we'll talk about some of that as we go along in this discussion. Um, Thirdly, identify gaps. Do you have a power of attorney in place, a health directive? If not, these can often be found or created without a full estate attorney. Um, for a reasonable cost, you can go to like websites like LegalZoom or similar services. That is a good starting point. It's usually a very reasonable cost, like I mentioned. So um, the thought is to recommend consulting with um, though, though I recommend, like I mentioned earlier, in consulting with a attorney, probably the same attorney that you had for your will. You can talk to them about all these documents. Um, there's some attorneys that have websites with a sample of all these documents on it, where you can grab it and just fill it out. It has questions on there, and you just fill it out. Fourth, make sure everything is stored together. So if you have a will, the directives, the power of attorney documents, all in one place, stored all together, where both you, your parents, your siblings know where all the documents are located. And in the last part one of the day-to-day finances, I had offered a free financial snapshot worksheet. You can use that same worksheet and then at the bottom put like estate planning and have all the documents listed out that they're done, maybe where they're located, when they were last updated. You can do anything with that document. It's just like a guide, but it helps you with a lot of important documents. And then lastly, tell the right people. Okay, so if you have an executor of the state, make sure that person knows they're going to be the executor. Someone that's listed as a power of attorney, designated person for a power of attorney, make sure they know that they're going to be the designated person and agree to do that, because the power of attorney, again, essentially takes over all financial responsibilities for that parent. So it kind of goes back to part one, the day-to-day financing. So they're going to have to want to do this because it's extra work, right? Because most people have their own life, their own household to be concerned about. So they're, pulling their information together, and then now they have to work, also include their parents' finances. And you want to make sure they know this so that it's not a surprise when that time comes that they are the executor or listed as the power of attorney. All right, so the not so good part. What if your parent resists? So like I mentioned before in part one, if they resist, the good thing is that you've planted the seed. They and so and then you can just walk away with love. You've had this discussion with them. You can now just, now they know that they need to have these things in place, and maybe they'll start doing some of that stuff on their own, and then get back with you. Maybe you can have an approach where, you may say, well, I also need to create a will and create these other documents. I'm going to go to my attorney and start the process. Maybe you can come with me. Maybe we can work on this together. So it depends on your relationship with your parent, right? Maybe that's not an option for everybody, but it may be something that you can do. If there's truly no movement on the topic, just write down what you know. If you know they have a will, check. You know, you may not know where it's located, but maybe you know that there's a few places where it could be, whether it could be with an attorney. In a bank, well, whatever, maybe they have a safe at the house, whatever. You can kind of figure out, that maybe a few places where they can keep the will. Um, and just anything else you can remember, maybe their attorney information. If you know that they have an attorney already, jot that down. But anything that you can have on paper now, if they're not, willing to help, it would be great. So I know this is heavy stuff, but I also know that families who have had these conversations, who do the hard work in getting this information in order, are so much better prepared when the difficult moments come, and they will come for all of us. Um, if your parent already has a will in place, have a will in place, that's great. It's a great start. But of course, you want to make sure they get these other documents in place. So just have the conversation about it. These other documents, once you have the will in place, are a lot, simpler. It's really a checklist. Making sure you have the right document for the right state um, is very important. If you're not going to, use an attorney. Um, and so, that's pretty much it. So drop a comment below. Tell me where your family is with this. Do you have all four documents in place? Are you just getting started? I genuinely would like to know. Next week, we're going to be wrapping up the money series with part three, long-term care costs. Something else that could keep you up at night. Because even if you have a house, um, you know, and even if it's paid off, can you, like keep it up, as you get older and things like that, and still remain in the house, or we have to, go to a senior citizen home or some long-term care facility. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that next so you don't miss part three. Also, if the series has been helpful, please share it. If there's another adult um, child taking care of their parent, with aging parents, not taking care of them yet, but with aging parents out there that needs this information right now, please share it with them. Also, I do have a estate planning checklist that I'm also going to include in the description of this video. And I'll see you next week. Thanks.